Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Vote for Holt, where today I am rejoined by my brother Julian.
Hello, everybody.
He's back in town for the weekend, off from his college campus, which is regularly like 4.5 hours away, so he doesn't get up here very often.
Yeah, a little mini fall break here, but I knew that right when I was coming back, I had to get right back on the top 10 grind.
Gotta get to it, yeah. So today we are counting down a very subjective and nostalgic top 10 that we had the idea to make for a couple months now. And that is the top 10 best cover arts in the Nancy Drew series.
Her Interactive does really nice cover arts. I think they keep with the theme of just picking a color and then really saturating that color into every inch of the game's cover. But
they definitely do that for the first half.
They have really nice artwork though. Everything is in really high resolution, much higher resolution than the games itself, and it looks like they put like a considerable amount of their budget into the artistry that goes into their covers. So.
Back in the day of the first, I'd say, 15 Nancy Drew games, especially the first 10, you know, that was the era of the lost art of video game cover art. And that was more or less when video games wouldn't be purchased because of trailers you saw on TV or, you know, things that you'd see online, but because people would go to the store and they'd see the games on the shelf and they would simply buy whatever looked coolest. So there was a lot of purchasing power that went into the development of a video game's cover art. And especially in the classic age of the Nancy Drew games, you see lots and lots of effort put into these cover arts. Whereas the latter half is kind of just pick a character, superimpose them onto the screen, and then surround them with stuff from the game. So you'll notice one thing, that there are a lot of picks from the first half of the franchise on this list, but there are still some gems in the later games.
And because something tells me we all had very similar childhoods, I know when we were downloading Nancy Drew games on our computer, the installation process, it goes through all of the previous cover arts from the previous games. And growing up, you know, I think we started with like Ghost Dogs, and seeing the cover arts of games 1 through 6, that was so eye-opening, and we just wanted to play more and more.
Because we had no idea where to find them. We used to get these games from the library. Anyways, enough nostalgic dribble. I think we're ready to go ahead and jump into number 10 on this list. You want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take it away.
Yeah, you take evens, I take odds.
Okay, everybody, coming in with number 10 on our list of the best cover arts, we have The Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon. Now, I think blue, of course, is a very fitting color for this. It's called Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon. And I just love the train in the background so much. I love the smoky mist coming out of the train and everything. I love the 13 that's in the center of the train. That was a really nice touch. The canyons, it implies that it's probably in the in-game too, which is a really cool touch. I don't know. It looks like it's nighttime. Everything's in really high definition. We don't get any cool shots like that of the train while we're in the game, sadly, but it paints a really clear picture of where the majority of the game takes place.
This was actually the last cover art that was done in one of the original styles. From games 1 through 5, they had a different cursive font, and then 6 through 13, they had this blocky, bold font that you see right here for Nancy Drew. And then after this game, they changed the whole thing entirely.
And something else worth noting about these games is that they had this really cool black border on the left side. You can see it going down just kind of diagonally across it. And there's these cool pickaxe silhouettes going through it. And that was something that they abandoned after this game. It was a really cool touch, and you're going to see later in this top 10.
The different textures and decals that they threw onto the black stripe.
Right, that was really cool. The pickaxe ones are actually one of my favorites. So.
It's a nice little moody touch.
All in all, Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon, it stands out really well. The blue was a great choice. The train looks beautiful. Everything is in high resolution, and it's a very nostalgic one. So that's what we got at number 10.
Coming in at number 9, we actually have one game forward, Danger by Design. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say that I like this cover art for Danger by Design more than I like Danger by Design. Because
100%.
Everyone knows that I hate this game. I've never really been able to get a grasp on it. Someday, I'm sure you'll all make me play it on stream, on Senior Detective with no spoilers. I'm going to hate you all for it. But regardless, I think that they really nailed the cover art. I love how the sky kind of morphs from the red fabric of the dress and the waves and the seams to like a red, cloudy sunset. I love this little moment where you have the yellow and the orange kind of blending into the skyline.
It's a good gradient.
The statue, not the statue, the Eiffel Tower in the background.
The Eiffel Tower, yeah.
Yes, the Eiffel statue. I love it. It's really dominant in the back, even though you don't visit in the game. It tells you it's Paris. I love getting the Moulin up here in the top left. The Moulin is just an excellent little piece that they added into it.
Well, you're forgetting the coolest part, which is the mask.
Oh yes, the mask, the centerpiece of it.
It stands out so well. Like the white contrasts so hard on that red, but it makes it look so ominous too.
Exactly, because one thing that I love about this is that you're not seeing a character on the cover, which became very typical and honestly pretty boring in the second half of the franchise. But just having the mask, the focal piece of one of the main suspects in this game, really gives a unique tone to it. And you gotta love that on the border of it, you also have the mask too.
Jamie, I'm noticing, do all of cover arts have like that text, like a little blanket statement about it?
Oh yeah, go undercover in Paris and unravel a case in style.
That's kind of neat.
Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon's text, I believe, was Catch this train. It's your ticket to solving a century-old mystery.
Yeah, that's something we got to be including. That's those statements are really cool.
The little teaser tickets are great, and it says them on here too. Otherwise, Danger by Design. Do not like this game, but I think it's an excellent use of the color red, on par with the other game on this list that does a really nice use of the color red as well. So, regardless, I think that it's a very, very moody picture. It looks like a volcanic eruption. I look at this and I think of Pompeii. So, it's very pretty, very beautiful.
Coming up next on our list, number 8, we have Nancy Drew and the Ghost of Thornton Hall. This is another iconic one in the community. This represents the more modern cover arts of these games because what her interactive gravitated towards was picking a central figure, placing them in the middle, and then placing little scenes around them or objects from the game. And obviously we have Scarlet here in the middle. Very high definition, she looks great.
It's very eye-catching as far as video game art goes, especially for the later generation when most games sell digitally online or through commercials. You really get an impression from this game. Seeing this on the shelf, it almost reminds me of like the Halloween monster cereals, like Count Chocula and Blueberry.
In a way, yeah.
I just look at this and it just emanates spooky monster vibes, and it's just, I love the dead trees, I love the full moon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, at first glance, you know immediately this is a horror game.
Exactly.
Which is really nice. And I love its little statement, some families keep deadly secrets.
That's a nice tagline.
That is it's really nice. Now, this game's cover art is great and all, but something that I like a little bit less is that when they just copy and paste different scenes that have nothing to do with each other, kind of like what we have going on with the graveyard on the left and then the manor on the right. That's a little bit too much of a contrast, but I love that the gates are in the front. I love Scarlet dead center. I love the moonlight striking in. All in all, it's just a very beautiful cover art. It's very high resolution, and I think it sets out and achieves what it's going for, which is just being eye-catching and have people wanting to buy the game based off its cover art.
Coming in at number 7, we have something of a little controversial pick, I might think, and this really came down to my personal opinion of a game that I always thought was very striking visually, and that is game number 6, The Secret of the Scarlet Hand. Now, this was the first game to feature this new Nancy Drew font, but it still maintained the original black stripe on the back and the central, color theme of the game. And if you look carefully, you can see that there's actually Mayan glyphs instead of something, and instead of the pickaxes or anything on the left side. And that's a very nice and unique, game-fitting little etching that they put on there. But anyways, this is a very simple cover art to me. It depicts the gardens of the Beach Hill Museum exhibit. And I love seeing the monolith in its full glory. I love that you don't even get to see all of it. There's a nicely lit path, and there's all sorts of strange plants all over the place. And then in the back, you see a shadowy figure in the gate. And I always thought that was Joanna Riggs for some reason, even though there's no reason for it to be. I don't know. It doesn't look like anyone in the game, really.
That shadowy figure actually means a lot to me. I feel like if it just wasn't there, if it was just shadowed, no silhouette in the back, then it wouldn't be as high up on this list.
If you just look at the line structure, everything points to the shadowy figure. Even the thumb on the red handprint.
That's a good point.
Which I was just about to talk about. The red handprint, even bleeding a little bit over the Nancy Drew letters. That's nice. And another thing that I distinctly remember about seeing this back in the day when I was installing Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake was that I knew nothing about this game, and looking at the red handprint, I thought this might be a murder mystery. Because I'm looking at this thing, oh my gosh, there's blood everywhere, and I thought that was spooky as like a 7-year-old.
Expose buried secrets and catch a thief red-handed.
Yeah, and so if you play the game, you know that the Scarlet Hand gimmick is a little bit different. It's all about cinnabar and mercuric sulfide, no blood involved, but it still makes for an interesting premise. Overall, that might just be my nostalgia speaking right now, but I have always loved the Scarlet Hand cover art.
It's definitely iconic. Coming in at number 6 on our list of the best cover arts of all time, we have Shadow at the Water's Edge. In my opinion, and I think Jamie's too, this is the best cover art that revolves around a central character in the front, and then the background's just scenes from the game. Actually, questionable scenes from the game, because this is shown in daytime, I think.
Yeah, it is daylight.
And Shadow at the Water's Edge does not have a single daylight scene in it, but it's just beautiful, everything about it. This obviously takes place in the best part of the games, the garden. And I love being able to see the little pond in the background. You can see the red little tiled bridge in the back, all the wildlife. There's that beautiful cherry blossom tree and the yellow silhouette around the Ure.
One thing that I like about this game is that, for one thing, Julian and I have said many times that we consider this to be the scariest Nancy Drew. You know, there's about 4 or 5 bona fide scary Nancy Drew games, this is the king of them all. And that being said, it doesn't try too hard to be super freaky. I love the Yurei because it's actually kind of beautiful, the Kasumi Shimizu on there. I like the wet hair and being covered in the algae and seaweed and whatnot, and the lily pads in the foreground. But it's not like the Ghost of Thornton Hall, Charlotte Thornton. Yeah,
it doesn't imply horror at the same time. Because it has something beautiful and majestic about it. I love the lily pads too, scattered across. Confront terrifying secrets in a haunted Japanese inn. Why would they call it Japanese inn? Just say ryokan.
No one knows what a ryokan is. I do love the color scheme because it deals with some very vibrant reds and soft like seafoam greens and blues at the same time. It's a very strong dynamic on two ends of the spectrum.
All across the board.
Yeah, so this is definitely an iconic cover art if you ask me.
Coming in at number 5 on our top 10 cover arts of all time, we have Nancy Drew in the final scene. This one, once again, pulling very hard on the nostalgia scale, but I also think it's very beautiful. I love Nancy Drew cover arts that stick to one specific location or scene. It's not like a collage of different places in the game, and I also like that, well, it's the most iconic place in the game, the Royal Palladium Theater, and I love this use. It's almost like an ominous use of the color red, but that's what the theater was.
It always reminded me of the bathrooms from The Shining, the Overlook Hotel.
This is very beautiful, though, very regal. I love the glimmer that's coming from the upstairs balcony, implying that somebody's either, like, looking down on you or stalking you or something.
The little spyglass, it's so eerie.
The chandelier up at the top, and I love the hardwood too that's used for the balconies. I just think that this is a very iconic Nancy Drew cover art.
This was also
the black bar that's going down the side of it too. That's signature with the older games. I love that it's a film reel. That's really cool because that's actually an important thing in the game too. Was Joseph's projector.
This was the last game actually that used the original classic Nancy Drew font, which you can see with the slick cursive in the middle. Everything else remained the same, but Secret of the Scarlet Hand and Up all had that bulky, bold font. And it's not bad, but, there's a certain mystique to this. And I do like that.
Also synonymous with those earlier games was that big, flashy yellow that goes across the bottom, the final scene. But
the gilded yellow, that's nice.
I also love its statement, too. Search a darkened movie theater to free a hostage from her captor's dangerous plots. That is, like, the most in-your-face, like...
It's pretty intense,
Intensity, yeah. But everything is super high definition for this. It looks like a painting. I love everything about it. So
if I could find a nice wallpaper of this, it would be my wallpaper.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to explain, but it's simple yet executed so well, and I feel like that kind of is a statement for Final Scene as a game.
Coming in at number 4 on this list, we actually have a very late entry in the franchise, game number 32, The Sea of Darkness. Now, if you compare Sea of Darkness to any of the recent games that came before it, it stands out greatly. It's difficult to describe almost. It's a total trend breaker, but it looks so nice. I almost want to say that they painted the cover. The waves look
very painted.
Yes, it's I'm assuming electronic all the same, but it's got an artist's touch to it, is what I'd say. And you can see the Hirlikite in the front, and I love the figurehead of the lion crashing into the harbor. I'm not even sure what the tagline was for this game. But, its feature is the lighthouse, which, bonus points for that. I love lighthouses. There's the massive icebergs or mountains in the back.
And the Aurora Borealis up top.
The Aurora Borealis. Who could forget the Northern Lights?
That's awesome. This is a beautiful one because it's just a single shot. There's no, collage of different scenes, but it has so much that it showcases in it.
In a time where the past 7 games all just featured a character in front of the game and nothing else, this really was a breath of fresh air. I thought that this was an excellent note, really, to end the franchise on, or at least to end the old era of Nancy Drew games.
And the Hirlikite looks so nice.
Hirlikite does look great. Another thing is that this was actually more or less the scene that we got to see at the teaser at the end of Game 31. It was this ship crashing into the harbor, and it was a similar angle to this.
It's true.
So it's kind of picking up right where Game 31 left off, which is something else to be applauded for. Otherwise, Sea of Darkness is definitely a bit of a surprising one. This list was more or less almost entirely old nostalgia games for us, but this one still revived a little bit of that art in the video game cover genre, which you don't see very much of past, I'd say, Game 15, really.
It has so much going on. It's really nice.
Coming in at number 3, we have game number 3, Message in a Haunted Mansion. Now, this cover always gave me mega Scooby-Doo vibes. I love the lightning, the thunder crack. I love that there's one light on in the whole mansion, which gets revisited in the opening scene of the game, where it's thundering and lightning right after the letter, or right before the letter, rather. It's a very, very moody picture, and it made me wish that the game would let you go outside. If this game ever gets a remaster, I'd love to go outside the hotel and explore the gardens and whatnot.
I love that it chose the color blue. I feel like it could have just as well done red or something, but blue works so nice with the sky and the lightning coming down from it. And it has the black border on the left.
The spider web.
The spider web
is so nice. It was the perfect choice for this game. That might be my favorite little black strip border of the entire franchise. And our tagline for this game reads, "Discover who or what is behind the mysterious accidents in a house full of secrets." I like how they don't even hammer home the haunted part in the description. They just let the title speak for itself.
I even love the moss that's creeping up the side of it.
The moss and ivy.
It's a nice little contrast to all the blue.
It's perfect.
It just looks like such a rundown old place, and the spiderwebs go great with that, of course, but it's so creepy. This is a snapshot of a game where it looks like a horror game, kind of.
Really, yeah. On a replay, honestly, this game goes by pretty fast, even though the nostalgia's great. I think I've actually speedrun this game, and I think my record was around 15 minutes or something. So it can go very fast if you're well experienced with it. But I could just look at the cover art for hours, because it takes me back to being...
To a simpler time.
Yes, 2009, just looking at the Nancy Drew games installing.
So definitely it's hard on nostalgia, but I think we can also appreciate that it's just a beautiful artwork. Coming in at number 2 on our list of the best Nancy Drew cover arts of all time, we have probably one that you guys wouldn't have expected. Stay tuned for Danger, everybody. The second ever Nancy Drew game.
Now, we've got a lot of reasons for this, but I have one.
What jumps out immediately, before all else, is its beautiful use of, magenta. I love this color. It works so well for this.
It's the only game that really capitalizes on pink. I mean, I can't think of anything else that does that. And it's not even like it's a girly game or anything. This game was honestly always really creepy to me.
It was.
And so, as a bit of background, if you're not familiar, Stay Tuned for Danger has always been a very difficult game to find. Digitally, it didn't work for a lot of reasons, because they were still having some behind-the-scenes transitioning from engine sort of stuff when it came to installing these games.
I mean, just today, it's over 22 years old now.
Yeah, it's a difficult game to get your hands on digitally, which we finally did about a year ago was the first time we played it. But physically, I have legit never seen a physical copy of Stay Tuned for Danger.
If anybody owns one, please let us know somehow. Join our Discord and post a picture of a box art of Stay Tuned for Danger, because that is insane.
Stay Tuned for Danger, it was always the super elusive game that we would see over the years when we were downloading Nancy Drews, because we had started, one by one to play the rest of them after we would install Ghost Dogs, and we'd see all the different teasers, but this was the one game that we knew nothing about, because it was so difficult to find.
Okay, we're getting sidetracked. We need to talk about the actual artwork.
Yeah, the actual art itself.
So it's in the set design of the studio from which the show Light of Our... No, what's it called?
It's Light of Our Love, I think.
That's what I was going to say.
It's a spoof of Days of Our Lives, which is a different sitcom.
We're going to say Light of Our Love and probably get it wrong. But
yeah.
It's the set design for it. And it's really, really cool because you can see the silhouette of somebody, some shadowy figure, and his shadow casting down on the silhouette himself. And I love that you can see the director's chairs and everything. You can see the little... Jamie, what's that called?
There's a slate.
The slate.
Yeah, the slate for the movie thing.
You can see the boom boxes and all the mics up top. It's just a very detailed cover art.
It's a really nice set, the scene that they've put together for it. And this game, it takes place in a lot of other places besides that little set, but just the way that they gave everything that pink hue is so intense. Really, the mystique of this game was just that for the longest time, we never knew what it was about. And having finally played it, it was a fun time. What's the tagline on this one?
Go undercover as super sleuth Nancy Drew to save daytime TV's biggest star from the danger lurking in the wings.
Stay Tuned for Danger, I will always fondly remember, is the game that would drive us crazy for the longest time, that we would never be able to play. And the only taste that we ever got of it was that cover art, so I will always look on it so fondly. And coming in at number 1, here comes our personal opinions, nostalgia, and bias, subjugating all other games once again. We have game number 7, The Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake. This game shows literally everything that it needs to, all in one screen. It's awesome.
It is perfect. I feel like I don't even know if nostalgia's a factor. I think this is just objectively one of the best cover arts of anything.
I love we get to see all 4 dogs. We get to see the cabin on the right, the giant trees of the Moon Lake Forest, the lake in the back, and the moon for which it is christened.
One of the smallest details, but I love about this is the fog that kind of rolls in over the ghost dogs. I think that's such a nice touch, and their eyes, of course. It's so creepy. I mean, this is another one where you clearly know that it's a horror game right off of its artwork.
And it's debatable whether or not Ghost Dogs Moon Lake is a horror game as it progresses, but that first 10 minutes definitely gives you your money's worth. I'd say that. Otherwise,
I love the black border again with the
paw prints.
Paw prints. That's so nice.
Otherwise, we've got a nice tagline here: "Hunt for clues on the trail of a pack of phantom hounds." That one always, was a bit enchanting, if you ask me.
And this one's color again. It's a little bit on the lighter side of blues, but it's very well done. Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake, I feel like. I mean, what are you gonna choose? Green? No, you have to choose blue. It's
gotta be a ghostly blue. One thing that I love is that it's not necessarily a collage like how the other games were.
Yeah.
But I can tell the exact point where this is taken from.
I can too.
This is the entrance to the forest, looking down at the house.
I can too. Yeah.
Which is really spooky and even more impressive because even from that one solid in-game angle, they were able to fit all these elements into place: the lake, the moon, the house, and the dogs.
Can you even see the dock and the boat in the background?
That is the dock and the boat. You are right.
Yeah. This had it all in one snapshot.
Honestly. Yeah, I don't know what else they could have thrown in here. Maybe it would have been a speakeasy cover, but
that would have been spoilers.
It doesn't even need it. It's just so cool. Yeah. I think that this game went above and beyond. It made the perfect little teaser. You know what I think is honestly the best rule of thumb is that this was probably the second game we ever played. We went to the library, we looked at the Nancy Drews, and this is the cover art that got our attention. So if you want, proof to the pudding, there it is right there. This is the game that caught our eye after we were given Legend of the Crystal Skull as a gift.
Well, with that, everybody, that is our top 10 favorite cover arts of all time. We admit that this was a heavily nostalgic and biased one, but we'd like to hear what yours are, because I'm sure there's some wacky ones out there.
A couple of ones that we were considering to go on the list, honorable mentions, was Treasure in the Royal Tower.
Treasure in the Royal Tower just missed it.
Yeah, that was probably going to be our number 11 pick if we could. Likewise, we were thinking about having Creature Capu Cave on there, just because of how wild the cover is, even though it's greatly misrepresentative of the game. There are no volcanic eruptions in Creature of Capu Cave. And Curse of Blackmore Manor, too. I always loved that it showed the lady on it, who I'm assuming was Eleanor Penvillin, and it just actually shows a piece of the manor from outside, which is interesting to see in that game, because it's all indoors.
I had always just thought that was Nancy growing up.
Otherwise, thanks so much for joining us again for another Top 10, everybody. I'm glad to have my brother back in town.
Yeah, that was so much fun. I want to just make more Top 10s now. We're glad that you guys like them.
It's definitely one of the more fun videos to make. It's a nice break from editing everything else. Otherwise, hope you guys are having a great October. I know I am. Having a lot of fun. And, otherwise...
Don't forget to vote for Holt.
Don't forget to vote for Holt.